So the first question is, what inspired you to create Seradawn and Seradusk?
What inspired us to create Seradawn and Seradusk is there's a few things that happened, right? It started in COVID, where uh, I noticed that while everything seemed okay, it was pretty stressful for everyone, right? And I noticed that I had started doing certain things that generally seem like they're normal, but it's really a stress response. And I was able to kind of catch that relatively early as compared to some people. And what happened was I was concerned about my cortisol levels. I was concerned about my metabolic health. I would go to a physician, my PCP. I'd get some blood work. Blood work was normal, but I still knew that there was something going on. And as someone who comes from sort of a South Asian subcontinental background, this idea of food as medicine and turmeric and uh, cinnamon and all of these sorts of things, it's part of our culture. Like I grew up with my grandparents and my parents sort of being like, oh, you know haldi, turmeric is good for immunity and so on and so forth. And I found myself during COVID initially relying on some of these quote unquote what we would say traditional medicinal approaches to just be like, I have no idea what's going to happen over here. What's the safest way that I can boost my immunity? And it's this combination of turmeric and so on and so forth. So it kind of the nidus was from there, and then I found that myself with an entire sort of kitchen counter, both my now wife at that point in time partner, we found ourselves with an entire sort of kitchen counter of supplements, and it's a hassle having to put like 10, 15 of them all together. And so during a conference, we were presenting a poster presentation at the the Institute of Functional Medicine, the annual international conference, and there was a vendor over there, and their job is to actually create custom blends and so on and so forth. And we sort of got chatting, and I was like, you know, hey, what do you think of this? This is a blend that I've been thinking of. Um, and he's like, yeah, this is a really well balanced blend. And, you know, part of what we're trying to do is actually create a blend. We actually have two blends. And I'm probably preempting one of the questions that we have, and that's okay. Which is we've designed a system that actually works. Uh, it's an AM PM style blend, right? And this is something that's very important for people to understand. All of us want better sleep, but better sleep happens when we have a better waking schedule. And a better waking schedule happens when we have a better sleep schedule, right? And so the blends are designed to work in tandem. The PM blend is a melatonin free blend, and we can get into the details of the ingredients and their mechanism of action and so on and so forth. But it's designed to work with the circadian rhythm and naturally boost melatonin levels in the evening so that you're sleeping well and you have a restful sleep. And naturally, then in the morning when you wake up, the morning blend is designed to build resilience in the system. So, as someone who has experienced stress and chronic stress right from, I would say, I was school captain in school, I went to med school, you know, I've had a good almost 30 years of experience of what stress is and what chronic stress exposure looks like. Um, I know for a fact that one's ability to manage stress on a day-to-day basis is just incredibly important for performance, right? And what I mean by performance is not necessarily athletic performance, but just day-to-day professional performance. You know, when you're going out there and you're seeing patients in an ER setting, if you're stressed out, you're not doing a really good job with your patients. But if you're in control, you're calm, you can respond to the situation, it makes a big difference. So as someone with a healthcare background, I know for a fact that one's ability to manage chronic stress is not only important for patient outcomes and patient care, but it's actually important for you as you're looking after your own health and so on and so forth. So the AM blend is designed specifically to build resilience during the day, and the PM blend is to really work in tandem with the natural circadian rhythm to help you sleep and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's kind of in a long way a snapshot of why we're doing what we're doing and why we created these blends. Yeah.
Thank you. So you initially were interested in pursuing this because of your own health, right?
Yeah. So there's a few things that have happened, right? So you grow up in the culture and you're like, okay, you should have, like my grandmother, for example, when I had a upset stomach, and I used to get motion sickness. So the alternatives for motion sickness for me as a child was Dramamine, which is non-drowsy, or Avamine, which I'm now aging myself, which is the drowsy version of Dramamine, or it was ginger and ginger candy, right? And as a child, I learned very quickly that there are certain things that you can do that have an impact on your health, which are not quote unquote drugs, right? So that nidus went on to an MBA project that we had done, which later a colleague of mine spun out. And what that was it wasn't energy drinks necessarily, but it was functional nutrition, right? So what is it that one can do? If you're going to the gym and you have a particular intent, you know, if you want a relaxation intent, if you want yoga, if you're building muscle, so on and so forth, there's functional things that you can do from a nutritional perspective that will help you out, right? So this idea of using dietary supplements or food ingredients, right, as a way of having some sort of a physiological impact is a philosophy that I grew up in, I believe in, and it's culminated in this particular blend, so to speak. And it's not just me, of course. I mean, you know, my colleagues and I, we've been discussing this, and we've sort of titrated what this looks like, and you know, so on and so forth. So each particular ingredient is carefully chosen. They work in tandem with each other. So the ingredients within the AM blend will work in concert with each other, and obviously the AM and the PM blend, Seradawn and Seradusk, will work in concert with each other as well. Think of you know, systems physiology meets systems nutrition, so to speak, if I could use those words. Yeah.
I just realized that Seradawn is PM, sorry, AM, I guess.
Yeah, Seradawn is the AM blend, and Seradusk is the PM blend. And it was, again, these words were, you know, they were chosen intentionally, right? Because if you look at circadian biology, right? The human brain, we have receptors in our eyes, in the retina, which directly communicate to the brain, right? But the color of the sky changing from the dark color in the morning to the bright sort of red, or that sunrise, dawn, right? That has a particular effect on us. We wake up with a cortisol spike. That light change increases cortisol in our brain, and it tells the body, hey, it's time to wake up, you know, go and forage for food, right? Whereas the exact opposite happens in the evening. Dawn, the dusk time, right, is the light. as the light color changes, the body's like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. The body's natural response is to reduce cortisol, increase melatonin, and a couple of hours after sunset, your body should be asleep. Like that's how we have evolved, right? So yeah, the names were intentional. Yeah. So yeah.
Why an AM/PM system?
Yeah. So in brief, I guess we only sleeping well is not the aim when it comes to circadian biology and actually being in balance with your environment. If you need to sleep well, you need to wake up well, and you need to have a balance between, I'm simplifying over here, between cortisol and melatonin, right? We have a fundamental misunderstanding of what cortisol does. We assume that cortisol is bad. It's not, right? Cortisol is absolutely important to wake you up in the morning and to tell your body like, hey, you need energy to be expended because you're going to be, fundamentally, what is it that we need to do as humans, right? We need to gather resources and we need to reproduce. Cortisol is important for that, right? On the other hand, so think of cortisol as telling your body, hey, you need to generate energy and you need to pursue a goal, and that's where dopamine and some of these other things come in. However, sustained cortisol not in balance is problematic because it's fundamentally a catabolic hormone, and you're going to break your body down if you have too much cortisol all the time, which is why we have other, let's just say, so DHEA is a good example, but there's other hormones that are released which are kind of like neuroprotective, and it protects your body from overexposure to cortisol. So chronic stress is sustained cortisol, chronic, without coming to baseline, and a little bit is okay, which is kind of what we need in the morning. Too much of it is problematic. So cortisol is needed in the morning, but you need melatonin to kick in the evening so that you can kind of switch off and go to sleep. Because if you have cortisol, your body's awake, but it's really a balance between the two. So the AM/PM blend is designed specifically to encourage that cycle, which is protecting against too much cortisol exposure during the day and naturally allowing melatonin to build up in the evening so that you can achieve that balance. Yeah.
What makes Seradawn and Seradusk different from other supplements?
So there's two things over here, right? Which is, and I know that we're going to get into this in the later part of the questions that we have as well, but it's about the motivation, right? So one is, hey, we need to have a proper balance between what we're doing during the day and making sure that we're switching off neurobiologically in the evening and that we're sleeping well, right? So we've gone into that already. The second piece is, well, actually, there's probably three pieces. So the second piece is, if you're going to take, if you find yourself taking 10 or 12 supplements, then it's just easier when you have like 2 bottles instead of a kitchen counter filled with, 20 bottles or what have you, right? So just the compliance piece, so it's easier when you have, you take a couple of capsules in the morning and then take a couple of capsules in the evening, depending on whatever it is that you're trying to do. So that's easier, right? And then the third is, our job or our business model is not to sell you more supplements, it's to sell you the right supplement blend, right? So I actually don't want you to buy 10 bottles from me. I just want you to buy 1 bottle, right? And so those are sort of like the 3 kind of core pieces as to why we've created what we've created, and hopefully the community can kind of benefit from that. So yeah.
Can I ask you my question?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So as someone who, just a person um, looking for supplements these days, there are so many options and so many different things they're saying. It's like a fashion today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today, fish oil is great, so
Mm-hmm.
everyone's starting to drink fish oil. How does one? I mean, I think it requires um, to do research and a lot of effort. So I guess what you're trying to do is to take that into your hands and to simplify someone's decisions about supplements and something that truly works.
That's an interesting way of putting it, right? Which is, and I think so. Let's take a step back, which is what is the core purpose of taking X, right? So you mentioned fish oil, for example. So fish oil, great source of omega-3s. We know that omega-3s are great for brain health. It's an anti-inflammatory, various reasons, right? So if we are using omega-3s as some sort of a neuroprotective or neurodevelopmental or cardioprotective or so on and so forth, like everything has a purpose, right? What we wanted to do was address a core problem that we noticed and feel is there's a core problem that we noticed that originated from our experience with COVID, right? Which is chronic stress is the root cause of most preventable illnesses. And the flip side of that is chronic inflammation, which is the root cause of, again, so chronic stress and chronic inflammation are root causes of, they're two sides of the same coin. They're the root cause of most preventable illnesses. And it's also something that we as modern humans are struggling with, right? We're being squeezed from all different sorts of directions, random chaotic environments. We're trying to keep it all together. We're exposed to stress. We're exposed to, most of us have difficulty with sleeping. Most of us have difficulty managing stress. So it was these two big things that we're like, hey, if we can sort this out, we've made a big impact. And one of the ways in which we think we can do this is to help people in a transparent manner with these blends. And to your point about simplifying decision making, what we're trying to do is present all the information in such a clear and transparent manner that you or anyone else as the consumer can be like, okay, this is what the purpose is. This is all the research that's behind it. All of this research is in front of me. It's presented to me in a way that is easy for me to understand. And it has all the references there. So if I want to double click onto anything, I can do so, right? So our job is to help you make an easy decision. And the way we do that is presenting you the best information that's out there in a way that's easy for you to understand. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Why did you launch through Kickstarter instead of?
Why do we want to launch through Kickstarter? I think that I've been a big supporter of campaigns on Kickstarter, and it is about community, but it's also about, it's a safer way for people to launch, right? And what that means is you can get almost like a product market fit validation through the campaign process itself, right? So that's one piece, right? The second piece is it's not just while we are starting with Seradawn and Seradusk, our intent is to move towards other spaces as well. And I think understanding, making sure that that benefit is available to the community, which would be the larger Kickstarter community, is a way to go about it, right? So if this particular campaign is successful, our intent is to continue with other campaigns, work with people who are supporting us, and come up with other blends as well to address other problem spaces. So yeah, it's a combination of all of these things, primarily to get people involved earlier on, and to give them the benefit of what it is that we're trying to do, which is, you know, if we get enough orders, we can make sure that the cost of production is as low as it can be. And our intent is to pass that benefit on to our supporters. So it's literally cost plus handling, shipping, and then, yeah, that's there. So that's kind of why Kickstarter. So, yeah.
In my experience, crowdfunding allows the audience, the people, to have better connection with the product. So there are all kinds of perks. There's
I agree with you. It is a way of, from our perspective, it's a way of getting instant feedback from the people that we're trying to help, right? The feedback mechanism is almost instant. So yeah.
And how did you select the ingredients?
The ingredients were selected through primarily through research that we had done, and here again the intent was, so let's take a step back, which is sometimes we look for point solutions, right? And what I mean by that is, oh, take ashwagandha, and if it's not working, just bump up the dose for ashwagandha, right? As an example. This fundamentally is problematic because if you understand the human body is a system, and if you beat it with a hammer, it's not going to really work properly. And so, you know, we're in a studio which has like a whole bunch of musical instruments, and you kind of have an understanding of what concert means, right? Or what is a symphony, or what is an orchestra, right? Everything together works really well. Yeah, sure, once in a while a soloist is good, but it kind of is awesome when everything is working together, right? So the idea over here again is, it's not just about one supplements, it's about how do you get the system to work together in concert, and then it's making sure that what you're doing is in balance with each other, right? So the evening blend, for example, is rather than beating you on your head with melatonin, what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we're going to give you a precursor. So tart cherry powder is a precursor for melatonin. It's a naturally occurring compound. And oh, by the way, that the enzyme that's needed to convert the precursor into melatonin requires zinc, it requires X, Y, so there's different precursors, ingredients, and so on and so forth that are designed to work in concert. And that's the reason why those particular ingredients were chosen. And it's same with the AM blend as well. So yeah.
So is it based on research? Is it based on experience? How?
Yeah. So research and a bit of experience, in the sense that we had a batch, an alpha test, so to speak, that we had done earlier on this year as well. So research, peer-reviewed literature, third-party validated outlets. Examine, for example, is a really well-known third-party information provider for a whole range of things, but also just on the evidence grade for the individual supplements and their actions and so on and so forth. So only using ingredients that have the evidence behind them, and then there's a physiological understanding of how they're working together, and then we created the blends, we gave it to our family and friends and so on and so forth, and got kind of feedback from them, and that's how we tweaked the blend a little bit, and then this is the next round for it. So a bit of both. Yeah.
Are these products FDA approved?
These products are not FDA approved, and there can be a little bit of a misunderstanding as to what the role of the FDA is when it comes to dietary supplements, right? So dietary supplements are regulated by the FDA through a process known as the Dietary Supplement and Health Education Act. So DSHEA, Dietary Supplements Health Education Act. It was created in the mid-90s. And what that does is it considers dietary supplements to be a part of food, which is why the FDA is regulating it. But it doesn't regulate it in the same way that it regulates drugs, for example. So as part of, if you are selling nutritional or dietary supplements, if you're selling dietary supplements in the US, you have to submit to the FDA the ingredients and any kind of functional claim that you want. And let me rephrase that. What you're doing is you're submitting the ingredients and any functional claims within a document to the FDA, and it's a notification. They don't regulate it in the sense that they don't prevent you, they're not going to review it or anything like that. It's just that you're saying, hey, I'm selling food, it's regulated in this way, this is what the process is, and we're not making health claims per se. What we're saying is that these ingredients are generally considered to be safe. There's evidence that they have a particular function, and that's what we're doing with these. So we're saying, hey, we know that ashwagandha has a particular function. If you're interested in that function, then consider having ashwagandha. We've created the blend along with other ingredients, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to consume it or not. So it's, yeah, FDA, it's not FDA doesn't approve supplements in the US. Yeah.
So how do you ensure product safety and transparency?
Yeah, so we're working with a very well-reputed company that manufactures what they refer to as clinical grade nutritional supplements. So that's how we go to the best so that we can give that on to the customers. So we're working with some really good manufacturers.
Please tell me, what's the bigger mission behind Serapath?
Yeah, that's a good question. Serapath Integrative is our mission is to help people manage their own health and give them the tools that they need to be able to manage their own preventive health. It's as simple as that, but it can be, if you view health through the lens of chronic inflammation and, as I mentioned earlier, chronic stress exposure, then that's kind of the root cause of what it is that we're trying to do, and give people the lifestyle tools to be able to help them manage their own health, right? So this non-pharmaceutical, non-surgical interventions related only to lifestyle. So think of it as lifestyle medicine, and then making sure that you have a sense of what it is that you should eat, what it is, how you should exercise, so on and so forth, and then giving you the tools to be able to monitor your own progress. Whether they're digital tools or whether you're talking to one of our health coaches, it's all really about giving the individual the support they need to be able to manage their own health. Yeah, so that's hopefully I've described our mission in a way that makes sense. So yeah.
What kind of community are you hoping to build?
I know for a fact that there are many people out there who are interested in creating a space where people can start working together, focusing on their own health, helping other people with their health. It's all about preventative health. Preventative health is not an individual pursuit, it is a collective pursuit. And part of what we're trying to do is build that community of well-wishers so that we can start sharing, best practices, tools, help each other out in creating an environment that is conducive to health. And it starts small. Hopefully we can create a movement out of this. But I personally think, and I know that my co-founders share this belief, which is the more we start thinking about health as a collective pursuit, the better and easier it becomes for us to start making the big changes that we need so that we can actually have an impact. Because right now, I feel as if we're going in the other direction, where, this is less of, I think it's recognized, at least in the US, that the healthcare system is broken. And there's really not a very good way of helping people manage their own health. But it's an ecosystem problem, right? It's about food, it's about resources, it's about knowledge, whatever's. Now, we cannot solve all of this by ourselves, but we'd love to be part of a larger group of people that is working towards this aim. So that's kind of the community piece over here. And this is our foray into identifying those people who are interested in working with us for this larger aim. Yeah.
How will you involve backers after the campaign?
Yeah, so this is, again, part of the community building piece, like I mentioned, is to see if there are people who want to work with us, right? And we will, depending on the success of the campaign, we then have a group of people who are, think of it as a collective of people who have a common aim. And then what we can do is we can say, okay, great. All the tools that we have as Serapath Integrative, these are the tools. How would you want to use them? How would you want to further develop them? So think of it as like a really large advisory council almost, so to speak, which is like, okay, we manage, we're working with stress and with sleep at the moment, but is there anything else that we should be working towards? And if there's momentum over there, then we can bring our resources and our expertise and say, okay, great, this is what that next blend looks like. Or, there's an application that I call it the health correlation engine. So another maybe 4 weeks or so, everyone who is a supporter will have access to that application. They can test it out, they can use it for themselves, they can tell us what they think is working, what's not working, and we'll improve, right? So citizen scientist used to be a word that was thrown around a while ago, which was identifying people who were interested in working with wearables and providing feedback and so on and so forth. We want to take that a step forward and say, hey, these are tools, they're available for you. Now, tell us how we can improve them so that you have better control over your own health and you have an understanding of how your actions are leading to some sort of an impact on your health. So yeah, that's kind of what we're thinking right now.
Can you please tell me how has this journey changed your own approach to health?
It's a good question. I found myself looking at the app that we're building right now and feeling slightly sheepish about how it was admonishing me in the morning. It was basically telling me that, oh, you said you were going to do these things and you kind of haven't done it. And oh, by the way, this is your biological age and, blah, blah. And I have just become very aware of not only how my health actions have an impact on my own health. But what I've become more aware of is how my actions have an impact on other people's health. And I think that is, that's a recognition that kind of, it's like, okay, take a step back, and this is a collective pursuit, right? So my wife and I are trying to be more aware and more conscious about the food that comes into our house, for example, right? We're becoming more and more aware of sometimes people just need a little bit of personal space to do whatever it is that they need to do. Being both part of the startup ecosystem, it's a very stressful place to be in. And sometimes the best thing is when you recognize that you're there for the other person, and helping them is kind of like helping you out, kind of a thing. So it's for me, it's been a self-discovery journey, but it's also provided me with the means and the tools to help other people out, almost on a near daily basis. This is, everyone who knows me kind of knows what it is that I'm doing, and we have these conversations. Hey, what should I do for this? What should I do for this? That kind of a thing. Before it was like, oh, you should do this, you should do this. Now it's like, oh, here's the tool. There, that's your solution set, right? And I love the idea of having several different toolkits in my toolbox, and I can just, if I see that there's a particular concern that someone is facing, I'm like, okay, here's the tool. This is how you go about doing it. This is how you can, this is how you take the decision. This is how you understand what's working, what's not working. This is the way you can monitor progress. And if you get stuck, just let me know, and we can figure it out together. So yeah, I've gone from, this is my personal story, of course. I've gone from someone who talks about it to having that toolkit, and I'm like, okay, here, this is the solution. So yeah.
What do you hope people feel when they take Seradawn and Seradusk?
I think my wish, my intent, it's not a wish, my intent is that within 2 to 3 weeks that they feel a little more calmer during the day. They're not as stressed out. They're more productive. They're more in balance with not only themselves, but also with the people around them. And then for Seradusk, it's just better sleep. The body's ability to repair and regenerate itself only happens at night when you're sleeping. And if you're not sleeping well, your body is not, you're basically just wearing your body down, right? And we've had some really good feedback from the initial tests that we did. I have a very close friend of mine who travels internationally, pursues a very stressful career, and for him, we play squash together, and he sort of says, hey man, this thing really works. I take it with me every time I'm flying overseas and so on and so forth. And just imagine, instead of carrying bags of like whatever, he just has to carry this one thing, and he swears by it. So hopefully we can get him talking in the campaign as well, and you'll see from him and hear from him as well. But he's not the only one. There's other people who have also, quote unquote, they swear by what's going on. So my intent is to, again, it's another toolkit that we want to make available to everyone out there, that if you're struggling with sleep or if you're stressed out during the day, these are things that can help. So yeah. My message for skeptics and skepticism in general is that it's a good thing. Yeah, I think everyone should be benignly skeptical, especially now that there's this huge sort of brouhaha about longevity and so on and so forth. We can get into why that's good or not, but skepticism is good, and it's not a response. Again, it's about helping people make decisions, and the way we help people make decisions is to be completely transparent about what it is that we're doing, right? So cost transparency, ingredient transparency, and everything is out in front of you. You can look at it. If you have any questions, ask us. We'll be happy to answer those questions. And yeah, it's the only thing that you will find in the supplements are actually the ingredients themselves, and we've titrated it such that there's minimal fillers. There's probably maybe less than 0.25% fillers. It's just supplements. Yeah.
What's next after this launch?
Good question. We have a couple of things that are brewing. I think I mentioned that there's a health correlation app that's going to be launched within maybe 4 to 6 weeks, and it's about building momentum. So if the launch is successful, on the supplement side, we'll start working with the community to see if we need to come up with other blends or not. And it's trying to understand what the next tool is that we need to build so that we can just help people out, given the situation that they're in. So application launch. We're also working on an app for health coaches to allow them to better interact with their clients. We're creating a whole bunch of, say, AI-based toolkits that we'll make available to people if they want to use them. So yeah, three or four things that we're kind of working on in tandem.
I was thinking it would be nice if you spent a minute just talking about yourself, like introducing yourself.
Oh, that's a tough question. All right, so my name is Vivek Narayan. I have a background in medicine. I worked as a physician in India for a couple of years before deciding that clinical medicine and clinical practice wasn't my thing. I was more interested in organizing the healthcare system because, and this is now, early 2000s, even though it was working for a government hospital in India, I realized and I felt that the healthcare system, and I'm using the word system intentionally over here, was basically failing the people that it was supposed to help and serve and so on and so forth. I was very interested in mental health. I pursued a master's in, let's call it, psychodynamic theory or psychoanalysis, and sort of meandered my way into healthcare administration. I have an MBA in healthcare administration. I've worked for a bioinnovation institute where we were doing a lot of translational medicine style work, applying existing IP strength and biomaterials into, say, chronic wounds and clinical settings and so on and so forth. But for the last 10 years or so, I've been either a startup founder trying to do digital health or a product manager with a digital health startup. The focus has been around, for me, increasingly, it's about preventive health. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, I have a header over there. I created a graphic basically, which is, we're born point A, onset of chronic disease is point B, and then we die point C, right? And my aim now is to see how we can increase AB for as long as possible and shorten BC, right? Because the cost, individuals, collective, all the costs, morbidity, all of those sorts of things are between B and C. And if we can improve everyone's quality of life, that would be such an amazing thing. So that's kind of what I personally want to work towards, and I want to work with other people who are working towards that as well. So yeah. Hopefully that answers in brief.
No, really good.
Yeah. Okay, cool.